Hi, I'm Derryl Gabel. Thanks for checking out my free course. So today I'd like to share with you one of the things that radically changed my playing, and it helped separate me from the sea of rock shredders coming up out of the early 90s. This helped me to get into guitar magazines and also helped me to win the gig to play on George Lynch's solo album, Sacred Groove, which came out in 1992. You know, whenever I started playing guitar around 1984, it was because of seeing Van Halen on MTV. You know, just seeing the way he played the guitar and the sounds that he could create and the fluidity and speed that he had just really amazed me. You know, I would listen to some of his recordings and just be like, how is he doing that on the guitar? It sounds impossible. That really intrigued me. So later on, you know, that led me to the shrapnel shredders that started coming out around 1985. Guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, Tony McAlpine, Paul Gilbert, Greg Howe, and many others. So as I was developing my style, I was always on the lookout for things that would help set me apart, make me unique, and be cutting edge. And one of the things that I stumbled on was playing the minor pentatonic scale 3 notes per string. So by visualizing the scale 3 notes per string horizontally like this, or vertically, it allows me to do things like So by visualizing the scale this way, it's going to allow you to create lines that are more like what you would hear a keyboardist or a saxophonist play. It's going to allow for more speed and cover a greater range, more octaves as it were. Now we're not going to throw away our 2 note per string patterns that we all know and love. In fact, they are more suited for that bluesy phrasing that we've heard all of our life. But by visualizing the scale 3 notes per string and creating these type of lines, it just broadens the colors that you paint with. So now the question is, where does one start to be able to visualize the guitar this way? Well, what I recommend from years of teaching and study is to first memorize the 5 positions of the minor pentatonic in a horizontal fashion. So let's take E minor pentatonic. Okay, and we're going to take E minor pentatonic in the first position, okay? What I mean, the first pattern of E minor pentatonic. So we're going to go to the 12th fret of the low E, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and call out the fret numbers for people that don't know the notes on the neck. And by the way, the notes of E minor pentatonic are E, G, A, B, D, E, okay? And I'm not going to get into where the minor pentatonic comes from right now. This is just mainly us focusing on this 3 note per string minor pentatonic scale visualization. So we're here at the 12th fret, okay, and we're going to play 12, 15, 17. Okay, and then we go to the A string and we play 12, 14, 17. Then we go to the D string, 12, 14, 17. Then we go to the G string, and that'd be 12, 14, 16. And then the B string is 12, 15, 17. And then the high E is 12, 15, 17. Now you might be thinking, oh my gosh, you know, I've never stretched my hand out that far, you know, it hurts, or, you know. Well, you know, I used to think that way too. I was like, you know, if I want to play the guitar this way, I'm going to have to, you know, stretch my fingers out. And one of the things that I used to do is I would put my hand like this in between my two fingers, and I would stretch it. Now, don't overdo it. I don't want you to hurt yourself. You know, it's just like when we were in grade school, right? We go to PE, and the coach says, you know, bend over and touch your toes. And at first, like, most people couldn't do that because their back muscles weren't stretched out. But over time, day after day, pretty soon, you could touch your toes, right? Your back muscle stretched out. And your hand is the same way. You know, if you do this a lot over time, you can, you know, get a pretty good stretch going on. So don't be afraid of that. And like my dad used to always say, if you do what you always done, you'll get what you've always got. So if you want to progress, as it were, you know, you got to be willing to take chances, and you got to be able to, you know, be willing to do things that you haven't done before. So don't be afraid of it. So now another thing you might have picked up on is as we're playing this scale, you know, we're getting these duplicate notes, you know, as we go across the guitar. Okay, and that's fine because all we're doing is building a framework to visualize the scale. There's lots of sequences that I'm going to be showing you that, you know, doesn't incorporate playing duplicate notes. However, it is a cool effect, and we'll take a look at that too. But, you know, I'll give you an example here. So, like, you know, even though we have these, you know, duplicate notes, I could, you know, play a sequence. Right? You know, and so the way that I arrange the notes, you don't hear any repeated, you know, duplicate notes. Okay, we're not going to get into a lot of sequencing right now, but I'll just break down what I just played. So with the ascending lick, what it was a group of 4, right? It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, so again, we're using the root position of the E minor pentatonic. Okay, you're going to pick a downstroke here on the 15th fret of the low E, and then pull off to the 12th fret. Okay, and then you want to hammer on to the 15th fret, and then the 17th fret. We move on to the A string, and you're going to pick down on the 14th fret, pull off to the 12th fret, then hammer on to the 14th fret, and then to the 17th fret. Then we go on to the D string. You're going to pick down on the 14th fret, pull off to 12, hammer on to the 14, and then the 17th fret. Then on the G string, you're going to pick down on the 14th fret, pull off to 12, hammer on 14, and then 16. Then to the B string, we want to pick down on the 15th fret, pull off to 12, then hammer on 15, and then 17. Then lastly, on the high E, pick down on the 15, pull off to 12, hammer on 15, and then back to 17. So we have... You know, whenever I'm doing this, you know, I'm trying my best to make it as clean as possible by using 2 hands to dampen the strings. So as I'm going across the strings, whenever I'm playing the low E, okay, the underside of my index finger is muting, you know, all the strings underneath. And as I move to the next string, the A string, my first finger, the tip of it, okay, is muting the low E, and so is my palm. Okay, and then as I move across the strings, I try my best to have my first finger touching the adjacent lower string, so it's muted, and then also my palm is, you know, helping to mute strings as I go across. Okay, so just in case you were interested about that. So now let's talk about the descending lick. Okay, the descending lick was a group of three. It's a, you know, a cliche lick that you probably heard before, but it's like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. And I'm mainly, you know, using my left hand to play all the notes. There's very little picking. I think I just picked the first note. Okay. Alright guys, that's it for now. Stay tuned for part 2 and we'll cover the 4 remaining positions, and I'll show you a little trick that will help you to memorize all the different patterns.